Welcome back to World's News, where we present you the most important and funny news from the past week, even though there weren't that many meme news since a war broke out. Anyways, this video covers the things that have happened in the past 2 weeks, and the topics are the Super Bowl, China's spaceport, thousands of baptisms being invalidated by a priest's use of one wrong word, the Queen catching COVID, the palindrome-day, and after that there's a longer part explaining why Russia invaded Ukraine and the timeline of the invasion. I'll try to keep this video as updated as possible, but since the video has to be cut, edited and uploaded, I probably won't be able to talk about the newest things in the Russo-Ukrainian war. But anyways, we hope that you'll enjoy this week's news, so let's jump right into the video. The Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is one of the, if not the biggest sports event of the year. On average, 42.7 million people view the Super Bowl every year, but there were years when it had up to 51.6 million viewers. That's why, according to BBC Sports, a 30-second ad during the Super Bowl costs around $6.5 million. This year, the Los Angeles Rams played against the Cincinnati Bengals, and as you've probably all heard by now, the Los Angeles Rams won 23-20. A ticket for the game on the secondary market costed about $10,000. And as every year, countless celebrities watched the game from the VIP lounge, where one ticket cost up to $75,000. These stars were, for example, Prince Harry with his cousin Eugene and Kanye West or Ye, who wore a full face mask as you can see here. And now some fun facts about the Super Bowl. During our average Super Bowl, 8 million pounds of guacamole are consumed. Along with that, 14,500 tons of chips are eaten during the Super Bowl. That equals around 29,000 bags of Lay's classic chips. And 700,000 footballs are produced annually for official NFL use, and 72 of them are used for the Super Bowl. China's spaceport. You've maybe seen the news about ISS retiring by 2031, but here on World's News we've told you that the space agencies that built the ISS will build another space station that may be commercial, but that isn't the topic. China developed and built a large robotic snake of unprecedented strength, flexibility and lifespan to explore space. This 1.5 meter or about 5 feet long robot, which attaches to spacecrafts, consists of 9 segments, each capable of generating a torque of 190 Newton meters, which is nearly double that produced by a 1200cc iron motorcycle. The joints between the segments can twist and rotate extensively, allowing the robot to snake through a complex environment to reach a narrow corner of a space station or satellite that is inaccessible to astronauts or robotic arms at present, according to the researchers. A damaged or malfunctioning segment of this robot can be removed or replaced with a new one, allowing it to be in service for an unlimited time, in theory. And the robot could also work together as tentacles to move or manipulate a large object, Zhu Zhenbang, the leading professor in this project, and his team said. Thousands of baptisms invalidated by priests' use of one wrong word. If this news won't become a meme, then what will? In the Catholic Church, babies get baptized in the first few weeks of their lives. This is the simple reason that in the earlier days of our world there was a high chance of babies not making it through the first months or years of their lives. In fact, in the Middle Age, almost 1 in 3 babies died within their first few months, let alone children in general. So the people of course wanted their children to go to heaven, so they were baptized as soon as possible, so even babies dying after only a few weeks or months could still go to heaven. This tradition is still practiced today in the Catholic Church, but now thousands of these baptisms were invalidated by a priest's use of one wrong word. Father Andres Arango in Phoenix, Arizona now resigned after mistakenly using the phrase "we baptize you" instead of "I baptize you" for years. These baptisms will now have to be performed again, and some churchgoers could even find their marriages not recognized. Father Andres, meanwhile, has sought forgiveness in his own message to be faithful. He wrote, "It saddens me to learn that I have performed invalid baptisms throughout my ministry as a priest by regularly using an incorrect formula. I deeply regret my error and how this has affected numerous people in our parish and elsewhere," adding that he would remain a priest and dedicate my energy and full-time ministry to help remedy this and heal those affected. If you're one of the people that now have to get baptized again, the Diocese of Phoenix website includes a form to register for a new baptism. baptism. And a spokesperson said that several churchgoers have already taken advantage, and anyone who was married after being baptized by a Rango is asked to call the diocese urgently. This story definitely won't be forgotten in the next century, and maybe it will gain more popularity throughout the internet to become a meme. But anyways, of course this is bad for most people involved in this situation, especially for Arango and the people who he baptized. But having to be baptized again can also be a chance to consider how faithful you really are, and hopefully help you strengthen your relationship to your God. Queen Elizabeth II of England caught COVID. On Sunday, the 20th of February, Buckingham Palace announced that the Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth II of England was tested positive for the coronavirus. Even though being 95 years old and celebrating her 70th year on the throne, the Queen is expecting mild cold-like symptoms, but plans on continuing light duties at Windsor over the coming week, the palace said. And it added that she will continue to receive medical attention and will follow all appropriate guidelines. This isn't the first COVID case in the royal family, since Prince Charles already had the virus 2 times, and his wife Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, confirmed she too had the virus on Monday. But this is probably the most worrying COVID case in the royal family, because even though the Queen expects mild cold-like symptoms, she's still 95 years old, which makes the virus a real threat to her life, but hopefully she will recover soon without any complications. The palindrome-day. There are several days in the year that are special for some reason, so why shouldn't there be a mathematically special day as well? The 22nd of February 2022 was a so-called palindrome day or Tuesday, which means that the number of that date can be read the same way forwards and backwards, and it consisted of mainly 2s. And you might think, wow, so what? But these palindrome days are extremely rare, and the next Tuesday will be in the year 2422 according to the National Weather Service. So you better enjoyed such a rarity. Or you didn't, that's none of my business really. But an enormous number of couples got married that day, especially in China, where these numbers are said to be lucky. Apart from that, the number 2 and the Chinese word for love are phonetically similar. So this was about the luckiest date in terms of love that the Chinese will get within the next 4,000 years. And thousands of Chinese couples took this opportunity to get married. The Russian invasion. You wouldn't believe how often I had to rewrite this article throughout the past 2 weeks, but I've learned my lesson and I'm gonna write the text for ongoing topics like this one day before the video gets published. So as you've probably heard if you're not living under a rock, Russia invaded Ukraine, but how did this start? The Russo-Ukrainian conflict has been going on for years. It started back in 2014 and has been going on ever since. Along with that, separatists with a Russian mindset, which means that they feel Russian and want Ukraine to become Russian, have fought against the Ukrainian government, costing hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers' lives. These battles happened in particular regions in Ukraine like the Donbass. As time moved on, Ukraine wanted to join the NATO, a defense agreement of many countries like the US and most European countries. But the Allied forces once promised Russia that the NATO wouldn't grow any further towards Russia, which it would if Ukraine joined the NATO, so Putin took this conflict in his own hands. A few months ago, Russia started stationing troops along the Russo-Ukrainian border. Ukraine answered these military movements with this meme, implying that living next to Russia would be a huge head pain. But Russia went on stationing thousands of troops and military equipment along the border until around a week ago, when there were over 100,000 Russian soldiers at the Russo-Ukrainian border. In talks with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, the Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed to withdraw a few thousand troops from the border and not to invade Ukraine, but unfortunately he didn't keep this promise. Just a few days later, on the 24th of February at around 3 in the morning local time, Russian troops invaded Ukraine. This started with the bombing of Ukrainian Air Force bases and other institutions that are important for the defense of Ukraine, like air defense systems or airfields used by the Ukrainian military. Then Russian ground troops proceeded, moving further into the country. On the same day, they had already advanced to Chernobyl, which they captured the same day. The bombings went on for the whole day, and it only stopped when it got too dark outside to properly identify their targets. But they continued destroying Ukrainian military institutions the next day. Right now, Russian soldiers attack Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, but until now, the Ukrainian forces could defend Kiev, and for the moment, the Russian troops stopped the attacks, but probably not for long. This entire time, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stayed in Kiev, risking his life to be with his country.
Всім доброго ранку, українці. Зараз в мережі дуже багато з'явилось фейкової інформації, що, немов я закликаю складати зброю, нашу армію і йде евакуація. Значить так, я тут, ніяку зброю ми не складемо, будемо захищати нашу державу, тому що наша зброя – це наша правда. Наша правда в тому, що це наша земля, наша країна, наші діти, і ми все це будемо захищати. Ось і все. Ось це і є те, що я хотів вам сказати. Слава Україні!
He even refused when the United States offered him to exfiltrate him from Ukraine to get him away from the Russian troops that already declared him as an enemy of Russia, and therefore would probably kill or imprison him in a war camp in Russia. But he took that risk to stay in Ukraine and to fight with his people. And the people defending Ukraine aren't just soldiers, but young men and women who are legally forced to fight for their country, but many of them want to fight anyways. There are even underage boys who would like to join the Ukrainian army in order to defend their country. But there are also older men and women who want to fight for the future of their grandchildren, like this 80-year-old Ukrainian man who arrived at the Ukrainian military with a small case containing 2 t-shirts, a pair of extra pants, a toothbrush and a few sandwiches for lunch. This shows how determined the Ukrainians are to defend their country and the future of their loved ones, something that Putin doesn't seem to know. In the Russian national TV, this invasion is portrayed as the liberation of the regions in Ukraine, where the Russian separatists have fought the Ukrainian government for years. But not all Russians believe this propaganda, and even fewer Russians want war. Some Russian people even protested against this war, but since this is illegal in Russia, most of them were arrested and imprisoned. So as you see, very few people want this war, even some Russians don't want it. But that doesn't stop Putin from trying to take over Ukraine, and he's probably even gonna be able to do that, because the rest of the world isn't gonna support Ukraine with troops, since Putin threatens to attack any third party with nuclear weapons, and nobody wants a nuclear war, but they are sending equipment and weapons to Ukraine. The plan is to let Russia take over Ukraine, and to then kill Russia's economy through sanctions and the ending of the Nord Stream 2 project. If you want to learn more about the Nord Stream 2 project, check this link in the description, since that would be way too much to cover in this video. So anyways, the world hopes that when the Russian economy is going down, the Russian oligarchs won't tolerate any more military actions by Russia. But this is in the future, and as you've all seen, the future is impossible to predict, let alone the future of this conflict. So we'll keep you updated, and we hope that this war will end soon. These were the most important and funny news from the past 2 weeks. If you have any suggestions, whether it would be regions that we forgot to cover or news that we missed out on, please let us know in the comments. And now to this week's bonus fact. A mushroom is neither a fruit nor a vegetable. Technically, mushrooms aren't even plants. They are a special type of fungus, a notion that puts some people off. If you don't mind the fungus part though, mushrooms are a great addition to a healthy diet, not to mention totally delicious.